Create corridor surfaces. After completing this video, you will be able to create a corridor surface, apply boundaries to a corridor surface, and apply appropriate overhang corrections. Now that my corridor is complete, I'm ready to build a surface and show the contours for that corridor. To do this, I'll select the corridor, then in the contextual ribbon that appears, Modify Corridor panel, click Corridor Surfaces. On the Surfaces panel, I'll click the Create Corridor Surface button. Then I want to rename it. I always rename it to make sure I remember which one was for my top surface to show how it's going to look when everything is done, and I'll create a second one for my datum surface to indicate how it's going to look before I start adding concrete and pavement, and so that my grading operators know how deep to grade before all that other material comes in. With that top surface selected, I'll make sure that my data type is set to links or feature lines, and then select the code that I want to use. Since I'm doing a top surface, I'll select top and click the plus symbol. Now I'll click OK. There's a little bit of a problem with this. In fact, there's a couple of different problems. First, my corridor surface is going over top of my existing ground even where there's not a corridor. That's because I haven't set up a boundary yet. And I need to tell the software how to handle overhang situations. In some configurations, Civil 3D assemblies might have top or datum points or links in locations that might lead to incorrect surfaces. And so we need to tell the software how to fix that. For instance, if I have a datum surface, sometimes it doesn't understand how to calculate that datum, so it might create a surface that follows the datum up to here, and then back up to here, and back down. And what it misses is how to handle this overhang situation. So we need to tell it how to handle that. To do that, I'll go back to the corridor, select it, and then open the Corridor Surfaces dialog box again. This time, for that top code, I'm going to change the overhang situation to top links, and that will correct the overhang situation for the top codes. I also need to make sure I add a boundary to my surface. So, on the Boundaries tab, when I right-click, I can do it by the corridor extents and have it automatically take the boundary for me, which I think I'll do for this first one. So I'll go ahead and grab the boundary, and when I click OK, I'll need to rebuild my corridor. It created my top surface with the contours showing only the top codes with no problems with the overhang. I want to do something similar for my datum surface, but this time I don't want to worry about the fill material inside of the corridor model. So I'm going to add a boundary for my datum surface interactively to just grab from the curb and gutter out to the outer boundary. To do this, again, I'll select the corridor model, and on the Modify Corridor panel, click Corridor Surfaces. This time I'm going to add a new surface, which will be my datum. So I'll click New. I'll rename this surface to be my datum. And of course, I want to make sure that my overhang option is set to my bottom links so that those overhangs are corrected automatically. And for my code, I'll specify the datum and click the plus symbol. Now I'm ready to add my boundary for that datum. This time I'm going to add my boundary interactively. So I'll right-click on my Newcastle Road datum surface and add interactively. From here, I'll zoom in on one of my feature lines and pick a point on the feature line. And it's allowing me to trace that feature line all the way around the corridor model and I'll end at this feature, the end of the feature line. It's going to ask me to select the point on another feature line. So I'll pick the point. This will be my daylight line, and I'll click OK. And you can see now it's allowing me to go around the outside of that feature line. I'll click to end it here. Pick the next point along the feature line. Again, selecting my daylight. And going around again. When you get it back to the beginning, you can select Close from the command line and allow it to create that boundary. You do have to rebuild the corridor, and now the datum surface is built. If you find you have triangulation issues due to frequency around curves and other things, you can select the corridor model, then edit the frequencies, and select the corridor region that you need to edit the frequencies for. So for instance, this area needs a few more sections applied to it. So around that curve, I'm going to change it to 5 and press enter. And I'll also need to do it around this curve. So I'll edit the frequency again, click on that region to adjust, and change the frequency around the curve. I could also change the frequency around the geometry points, whether or not I want to add sections to those geometry points, and at the start and at the end of the alignment, as well as along tangent curves. When I click OK, it adjusts those and makes the surface much more accurate.